The secret of getting ahead is getting started.
Hi, my name is Andriea on Dreamcatcher Radio for Beyond the Cover show every Monday between 12 to 1:30 p.m. I discuss all things about book, literature, and writing while sharing my passion for music and creativity. I love hearing from listeners, so please email me on andrea@dreamcatcherradio.co.uk.
George Eliot inspired us with, "It's never too late to be what you might have been."
Hi everyone, it's me Andriea on Dreamcatcher Radio Beyond the Cover. And today's episode, which is 33, 34, something like that, we're going to have a very special guest with me. And his name is Jay Neill. He's a British self-published author who lives in South England. And this part is known for his diverse landscapes, from the vibrant capital London, often considered the gateway, to historical cities like Bath and Bristol, stunning coastlines, Dorset, Cornwall, Sussex, rolling countryside, Cotswolds, Surrey, Wales, and significant sites like Oxford and Cambridge, offering rich history, culture, and natural beauty with excellent port links. Also, just a little bit of information about Jay Neill. Jay Neill writes high-concept, fantastical, urban portal fantasy. I never heard this concept before, but I'm very, very excited to explore this today and to know what this actually is about. That is set in a world, according to his website, that is disorientatedly similar to the England for today and symbiotically linked to the life that we know. And he has published two books so far. So the first one is a novel which is called The Terminus of All Things. So it's a standalone British urban portal fantasy. The first is Heartbroke, then Reality Dead. Imagine a place where nothing truly dies, when the discarded remnants of human progress find a new existence. This is England. A vibrant, chaotic realm built from the cast-offs of a world, a dazzling collison of forgotten fashion, outdated technology and lost ideologies. While Jack Gardner stumbles into England, railing from being dumped into a London railway station, he learns that his role and the one he has left behind are teetering on the edge of chaos. And the second published novelette is called The Angel of King's Cross. The rush of festive season is passing Betty by. She's just trying to make it through another Christmas in London, volunteering at a nearby shelter, helping the forgotten souls of King's Cross. Then she fights Kevin. He's quiet, resists help, and doesn't seem to fit in with the other homelessness. He's just a man on the street, trying desperately to remain unseen. But Betty can sense a strange cold power beneath these warm blankets. Kevin is a secret waiting to be found. On a dark, freezing Christmas night, a curiosity finally gives way to horror. She witnesses a flash of the impossible, a bridge in the line between the human world and the dangerous truth of the hidden world that Caden has to conceal. Christmas miracles aren't real, are they? And if there truly is an angel of King's Cross, is it a man or a monster? And then, two novels are coming soon, which is The Curious Psychologies and Peculiar Consequences, Book 1 and 2 in a 5-part of human fantasy series. And I want to say to Jay Neill, thank you so much for coming to my show today. And would you like to add extra stuff, or would you like me to start your interview?
Yeah, no, thanks very much for inviting me. And it was fascinating hearing you when you introduced where I was from and you talked about some of the things in the south of England. And of course, that contrasts so much with the worlds that I write about, because I write about really grimy urban environments. And you talked about the beautiful rolling hills of Dorset and things like that. And that just shows what a diverse landscape England has. And that's why I enjoy writing about England so much.
And that's what we're going to discover today. I'm very excited for that as well, because I've lived here for England for 8 years or so, and I know I'm a foreigner, but so far I'm enjoying it. I cannot really see how much I still need to discover, go out and see much about it. So I really hope that your books can bring that as well to the listeners and to me as well. So the first question I will start, Jay, is Tell us about your writing process.
I am what is known in the writing trade as a pantser. Pantser,
Yeah.
pantser, which means I think there's a nice posh phrase for it now, which is discovery writer, which tries to make it sound like there is a process, but I actually don't really have a process. I am the kind of writer that I have an idea, I have a concept, I ask a question, such as in the terminus of all things, the question was, what would happen in the world if all the creativity in the world ended? And then I build a story around that. I start off with a kind of a scene, and then I let the story develop. Now, that's great to a point. And that worked really well for me with my first novel. But with my new series that I'm writing at the moment, because I've got 5 books planned, and I know the beginning and I know the end, I do have to actually put some work into developing the middle before I actually start to write the books. And so I'm slowly turning myself into more of a plotter than a pantser. But really, my process is I start with the question, I build the world in quite a deep fashion around that, not about plot, but about geographical features, the way that people think, the way that people dress, and then I let the plot develop from that point.
That's a very interesting way to put it. I mean, I never heard of the term as well, discovering was. I never heard of it.
I only heard it myself for the first time about 3 weeks ago, and I thought that is so much nicer than calling yourself a pantser, because it actually sounds like is a real thing. But...
yeah, it's true.
So I should have opened with that. I am a discovery writer, and then I could have added pantser.
There you go. Yes, and I think the fascinating thing about discovering writer is that because, I mean, I think we still have a process, but I think it's not as structured as an architect has. But we still have our own process how we deal with things, because I'm considering myself as well as discover writer, I'm using that term as well. And usually I start with just a theme and idea, and then the rest goes.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
I love being surprised by my characters as I go along, and there are some plot twists, particularly in my first novel, Terminus of All Things, where even as I was approaching the point at which that twist was coming, I was thinking to myself, are you doing this? Is this going to happen? Is this the person that it's going to be behind the door when the door opens? And almost right up to the last minute, I'm not 100% sure that that's what's going to happen. So there's actually almost an alternate universe where I made a different decision at that moment, and that wasn't the twist. There was a different twist, and the story went down a whole different route.
Yeah, no, it's always fascinating to see how everyone will be surprised by our own characters and pros. It's always the time of the story that you go, oh, okay, discover something new today. Oh, hold on, this really goes to this way. Let's go, let's just embark, because it's the journey of the writing.
Yeah.
And so, just also to know a little bit, what do you think it comes to you first? Is the plot, the characters, or something else?
It's definitely not the plot, which I think is evident from my answer to the previous question. Yeah. Is it the characters? I would say it's the world, actually. I actually asked this question on one of my TikTok posts, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago now, where I asked, are you a world builder or are you a character builder first and foremost as a writer? And my answer at the time was, I'm a world builder. So I will sit down, I will sketch a map. I will draw pictures of what I think the world looks like. I will imagine how the judicial system works or how the financial system works. And I do all of that long before I start to think about the characters. The characters themselves are probably the next thing that comes along. I usually know who my main character is. I will not always have decided who the adjacent characters are. And that is another thing that sometimes surprises me as I go along. I was really pleased with my first book that a character who started out as a side character actually became a main character as the book progressed. And then by the end was effectively the hero of the whole story.
That was so cool.
Yeah, so it was really, one of the nicest experiences I've had in writing was to almost actually see a character develop as the book went along. And I think that's another reason why I would find it very hard to sit down and actually detail out a character, because I want to go through that process of learning about the characters as they experience things in real time that I'm writing.
No, I think it makes sense at least the thing because you said that you goes to these places of London. I think there's certainly a connection what you're doing with your characters and things you want to explore. I think it makes a lot of sense, definitely. So tell me just what you need, writing space to help you stay focused. What do you think?
Oh, I'm really bad at staying focused.
Oh,
I'm the kind of person who can't keep their attention on something for more than 5 minutes. So sitting there and talking to you at this point requires a lot of focus from me to
oh bless you.
to stay focused. I'm exaggerating a bit. I don't quite have to jump around every 5 minutes, but I certainly don't like to do something for more than half an hour. So I have a routine. My morning routine is, and I can talk a bit more about how my day looks. But my morning routine is more about the mechanics of being a publisher, of being published. Marketing, accounts. Trying to work out who bought my book the night before, things like that. And then in the afternoon, I will turn my attention to something in the creative process. That wouldn't necessarily always be writing. It could be cover design, or it could be editing, or it could be listening through audiobook files that my narrator has sent through to me. But just something that keeps that creativity going. The writing itself very much depends on whether I'm really, really loving what I'm doing at that moment. We all know as writers that there are some chapters, some scenes where it's a slog, and you have to get through it because you know that you've got to get from point A to point B. But you know that getting from point A to point B is not something that you are particularly excited about. It might be that you write it in an exciting way, but you yourself are not. And that's where you really have to have the discipline to push on through and actually write it. And then you have that magical moment where you hit a bit that you're really looking forward to, a key scene or a moment where something really wonderful happens to a character. And then suddenly the writing flows and you've written 3,000 words in 2 hours and you haven't taken your eyes off the screen at any point.
No, yes, it's definitely a writing process that I think people don't really realize, or society as well. My last episode was about how society hates artists and still does, and I think it comes with that they don't really realize how much effort we put ourselves in, and how much we do on the writing process. It's a process. It's not straightforward. Yeah. It requires a lot of attention.
It's an interesting point because we're experiencing two very conflicting things at the moment. I get a lot of questions from people who I know, friends, family, saying to me, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you can come up with these things. I don't know how your imagination lets you do this. And then equally, we've got a shift in culture and society at the moment where we're really devaluing artists and real human artists, be it visual arts or written arts or musical arts. And that's been replaced with generative AI.
Yes.
And those two things don't sit together. You've got this complete wonder that a human being could do something so wonderful from people who don't find it as easy to do it. And on the other hand, they're like, yeah, but it's worthless because the machine can do it as well.
Yes.
And I'm finding that quite hard to deal with at the moment.
No, honestly, it is because I think there's a lot of history as well about the AI or people that are behind it. They never got a degree on that. Mm-hmm. And I think this, at least I know from the artist's perspective, I think the guys were a little bit bored with the art because I think they were in art class. And then decided, let's put generative AI because it's easy, it's the easiest way. Mm-hmm. But then comes the legalization, the things the court, the laws on it to protect the artistic integrity of an artist. So there's a lot of work here. I think people will realize how important it is to protect artists nowadays.
Yeah,
because of that. So I think we did very good points so far. And then let's make a little pause here to introduce your first song, Jay. Could you please introduce your first song?
Okay. Well, my first novel is all about nostalgia. And so I wanted to pick some songs that were nostalgic for me, not necessarily having a big emotional connection, but certainly to take me back to somewhere in the past. And I want to start with In Excess's Baby Don't Cry.
Oh.
Which is... I went through a phase in my life where I was obsessed with Australia. I had friends in Australia. I visited Australia. We're talking many years ago now, 35 years ago, a long, long time. And I became obsessed with Australian music, and in particular, well-known bands like Midnight Oil, In Excess, but also bands that were less well-known as well. And what I love about this particular In Excess track is that it's completely different to everything else they did. They got a 60-piece orchestra in. It's really uplifting. It's upbeat. And that contrasts so greatly with everything else they did, which was a little bit sanitized, edgy, I guess, if that's the thing. And so I've always really liked it, and I don't often play it. And when you were asking me what songs I would like to pick for you to play, I thought to myself, I haven't heard that for a very long time, and it always made me happy. So let's listen to that.
And guys, this was An Access Baby Don't Cry. I really hope you guys enjoyed the song, the lyrics, and also bring you some nostalgia, like JF said right now. So let's continue our interview. And the other question I'd like to ask you, it is, what do you think is the best way to improve writing skills?
Oh gosh, I feel very underqualified to answer that question.
Oh.
Because I still think of myself a little bit as an imposter in the writing world. I came late to writing, in that when I was much younger, I used to love creative writing, and then I effectively took a 30-year hiatus where I didn't do creative writing at all. I would occasionally start the first chapter of a novel and for fun, and it would never go anywhere, and I would move on to something else. And my career took me down a very different route, but which I now look back on and think, okay, there was a lot of storytelling in what I had to do, but it wasn't creating fiction. It was telling stories, real stories, to encourage people to achieve a particular business goal or whatever that might be. And when I came to writing for real, we're only talking here maybe 2 years ago, when I picked up a metaphorical pen again and started writing. I had no idea whether I was any good or not. I was doing it for myself, and it's only through the process of the past 2 years and people loving what I've written, and people not just enjoying what I've written, but telling me how and I can't believe I'm saying this about myself, but how good I am actually at that craft of writing. I still can't quite believe that myself, because honestly, I don't have a master plan in my head about how I go about it. There are some sort of mechanical things that I do. I think it's quite easy to look at. You can spot bad writing.
Yeah.
You can spot bad writing because nothing happens or too much happens. You can spot bad writing because it uses sentences that are either too bland or incredibly flowery and I think there's a middle ground to strike on all these things, and it's learning how to strike that middle ground, which is really important. And so, of course, human feedback is very important in that. For my first novel, I used a lot of beta readers, and that was useful to a point, but I got such conflicting feedback from those beta readers. What that told me was that everybody's different. Everybody likes a different style of writing. Everybody likes a different type of story. And so in the end, I think it comes down to trusting yourself. There's two really important mechanical things that you can do, I think, though, to make your writing pop. One is be really good at doing an echoes check. Look, it's so common when you read bad writing to see the same word repeated again and again and again and again, all the way down the page, or the same phrase used the whole time. And you can get tools out there that can do echoes checks for you. The other thing that I would suggest is read it aloud. Now, I know that that is a recommended technique when you're going through the editing process, but it is also, if you read something aloud to yourself and it doesn't sound right, that means it's not going to read right either. And so it's so boring. It's so boring reading your own work aloud to yourself, but you have to do it, and you have to do it again and again and again, because I can sometimes read something through 3, 4, 5 times, and it's only on the 5th time that I listen to it and go, oh, yeah, that sentence is clunky. That is not good. And then go back and correct it. Okay, I'm using reading aloud to yourself here as a shorthand, really, because you can get other people to read it to you. You can get Word to read it aloud to you. If you're having an audiobook created, as I am at the moment, you've got another human being then reading your work, and I'm listening back to that audiobook as it's being created, and it's too late now, unfortunately, because the book is ready to go to press, but I'm hearing sentences in there where I think, I would like to change that now. It doesn't sound quite as good now. I hear a real human voice reading that out.
Yeah, I think this again. It comes back to the process of writing, because yes, we can read the sentences, we can do all this stuff, but it's all about the process. It's all about how you then think okay, I can do this better now, but I already know it's too late because, as you said, now with your book. And yes, the other thing I would like to ask as well, Jay, is when you're writing these very emotional scenes in your story, how do you set up the mood, if there is any?
Yeah. I think that's something I'm still learning about. I have deliberately stayed away from themes like romance in my writing at the moment. There are hints of romance. I occasionally refer to it as very, very super slow burn romance because it doesn't really, that romance isn't explicitly described or consummated as such in the writing. And so I think I am still learning about that. But I think if I have a criticism of my writing at the moment, it's that sometimes my characters get from a mental state A to mental state B very, very quickly, and I don't give them enough time to breathe through that process. So in The Terminus of All Things, for example, without giving too many spoilers away, one of the characters goes on an emotional journey in that story, which they do over the course of effectively 36 hours. And I know in my heart of hearts that it's a very short period of time to go from where they started to where they finished up. It's great for the story. It means the pace keeps moving very quickly. It feels snappy because it does take place in such a short period of time. But I know in my heart of hearts that that's not how a real human would behave. And so I think I'm enjoying in the series I'm writing at the moment. Because it's spread out over 5 books, I've got the time and the space in that to experiment with different ways of creating emotion, of letting the characters enter into emotional events, dangerous events, events that make them happy, events that make them cry. So that I can't answer your question with a real tip there, only to say that I think it is really, really hard. And when I do learn how to do it, I'd love to come back and tell you.
Oh, bless you. No, I can understand. As I like to say with the people that listen to my show, we are writers have on ways how we process things and how we learn things as well. Some learn slow, some learn fast, and some I'm in the middle, and that's okay because we're all on our own path. That is what matters at the end, at least is how I see it as a writer as well.
Yep.
So the other thing I would like to ask, because of the genre you are writing about now, it's so interesting, is why urban fantasy and not other genre? I will have to ask you.
Okay, so I started out with urban fantasy. I don't think I'll stay writing just urban fantasy through whatever comes in the future. I would like to try moving more into maybe science fiction. But I love urban fantasy because it takes something mundane, like the world that we live in today. In the case of my new series, the world of the London Underground, something that millions of people experience every single day and they don't even think about it. And then it layers on top of it something completely fantastical. And I really love reading and writing about that juxtaposing of the completely mundane and the completely fantastical at the same time. I don't really enjoy high fantasy. So if, Tolkien, Brandon Sanderson, I mean, I've read them and enjoyed them, but I don't love those books. I don't look back at them and think, oh, that's a book that really meant something to me. Whereas when I think about the books that really meant something to me, they are books where they're set in the present day, and it has taken a world that I'm familiar with and then subverted that world in a way that makes you think, could that be real? Could that happen to me? If I do catch the wrong train, would that happen to me? And it's been one of the nicest things about The Terminus of All Things is that I've had people come to me afterwards and say that they have taken train journeys or they've been in London or wherever around the country, and they have seen something in real life which they know is in the book a setup that takes the protagonist somewhere magical, and they've actually stopped and thought, oh, is that should I go down that path? It's become real to them, and that's had quite a few people have said to me that they've thought about that, and that's why I love urban fantasy. The word urban is a misnomer because it doesn't have to be just set in an urban environment. You can have an urban fantasy that's set in the countryside, for example, but it really, the pure definition is everyday, normal, modern day location, fantasy layered on top.
Would you consider maybe maybe not the correct word, but maybe like the title would be modern fantasy, maybe instead of urban? Or...
Yeah, maybe. I haven't ever heard anyone use that phrase, but yeah, it could be modern fantasy. There are elements of magical realism in it as well, of course. I think magical realism is a sort of step beyond urban fantasy, but yeah, that's quite similar. And there are also many books that actually straddle genre, and I describe the terminus of all things as an urban fantasy because it's a nice shorthand. It gives people a very quick trope that they can go, oh yeah, okay, I think I know what I'm going to get with this book.
Yeah.
But it's also a portal fantasy, which is another subgenre of fantasy. And then you could think about a book like, let me think, like, well, anything by China Melville, for example. Not anything, almost anything by China Melville. They're set in a medieval industrial revolution, steampunk type environment. And they are fantasy, but they're not actually set in the world that we know, in the world that we understand. It's a kind of a parallel alternate universe. Yet again, he has to use the word urban fantasy as a shorthand for what he does.
Okay, so before we start, we can make a pause here right now. And could you just please tell your second song, please? Jay.
Yeah, so this one's super nostalgic for me, and I'm going to suggest a song by Belinda Carlisle. Now, I'm almost embarrassed to say this because Belinda Carlisle, although she's making a comeback at the moment, was not a very trendy artist, even when I was younger, when I liked her. And so I got teased a lot by my friends for liking Belinda Carlisle, but I stuck with it. I was a super fan. I saw her in concert. And then I went to university, and I had that beaten out of me, metaphorically, of course, not literally, but my music taste shifted completely because I was suddenly living with a bunch of people who liked a completely different style of music, and I effectively grew up. But every time I hear a Belinda Carlisle song, I still stop and listen to it and think back and think about 15, 16-year-old Jay and how happy that made him at the time. So I've picked Valentine, which is not one of her most famous songs, but I think one of her best.
I made a rule about you. I made a
And guys, this was Belinda Carcel Valentine. I hope you guys enjoyed the song and vibe with the singer as well. So now, Jay, the last question I would like you to ask. This is more a bit of curiosity, just to break a little bit of the seriousness of the interview. I like to do this because sometimes writers have interesting ways about the characters and things like that. So, would you and your main character get along, do you think?
No. Well, there are two main characters in The Terminus of All Things. There is Jack. He is he's mid-30s, maybe early 30s, and I don't think I would like him. He's quite lazy. He's quite naive, but he goes on the journey, and by the end of the book, maybe people's opinion about him will have changed. But I deliberately wanted to write a character who was not a standout hero. He was somebody that people would take a step back from and think, I'm not 100% sure that I like you. But he's very lucky. In the second chapter, he meets a character called Piper, who is a young woman, mid-20s. And I would definitely like Piper. That was the character that I didn't think was going to become a main character, and she did. So I think I would absolutely like to meet her in real life. I think she's fantastic. In my new book, my new series that I'm writing, I don't know yet whether I would. The main character is a character called Hannah. I have surprised myself by, again, attempting to write a female main character, which I know is something that men are advised not to do. But apparently I did it okay with my first book, so I'm trying it again with the second one. And she's quite feisty. She's quite fierce. So I think I would find her quite scary if I met her in real life. She's had a few knocks in her life, and she has to keep on going. So I don't know if I would get along with her. She might think that I was just a bit of a waste of her time, because she's got to move on and get on to something more important than me.
Oh, but okay. So another thing I will ask as well is, if you could meet your characters, what would you say to them?
Well, if I could meet my main character, Jack, I would say to him that he is going to be very happy with himself, because he's not very happy with himself at the start of the book. And in fact, he's not very happy with himself at the middle of the book either. But I would say to him, you're going to be happy with yourself at the end. That isn't giving anything away. But he is, I think by the end, he'll be pleased. If I could meet Piper, I would say thank you. And I'm not going to say why I would say thank you, but I would say thank you to her.
Okay, fantastic. And let me see. Yeah. So just another question as well. Do you prefer ebooks, printed books, or audiobooks most of the time, or another platform of reading?
I love physical books. I would always, by choice, buy the physical book. I think the more value I place on a story, or the more I expect to enjoy a story, the more likely I am to buy it as a physical book. That doesn't mean that I don't buy ebooks. Of course I do, but they tend to be more kind of quick reads, something that I just pick up, because I need to fill 5 minutes, something to read when the lights are off at nighttime, that kind of thing. Audiobooks, I don't really have a lifestyle that gives me the time to sit and listen to an audiobook. I know that people like audiobooks because they can get on with other things while they're listening to it. But I find that if I'm not concentrating on the words in my earphones, that I'm not listening. And so I can't do other things. I would have to just sit down and listen to the audiobook. And I don't feel like I've quite got time for that in my life right now. But I know that people love them. They're so popular. And that's why I'm having audiobooks created now.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to reflect on. That is that, yes, printed books are still popular nowadays, but also audiobooks. It seems like we are, I think, casting an actor or actresses to just try to play our characters. I think it's so interesting, and people love that. People love that.
Yeah, the process of choosing a narrator for my new series has been one of the most exciting things that I've ever done. Auditioning narrators and listening to them bring my characters to life in ways that meant that the voices I had in my head were replaced with their voices instead. It's been a wonderful experience. I'm so pleased with the actress that I'm now working with. It's fantastic.
So yeah, I think that's a very interesting the part of the audiobooks. Also, if your books were made into a movie, which actors or actresses would play your characters?
I have actually put far too much thought to this.
Oh.
Partly as a fun exercise, but also partly because it helps you to bring your characters to life. If you can imagine people who you know, bringing them to life. The For Terminus of All Things, I think it's the kind of book, though, that wouldn't lend itself to having really famous, established actors in those roles. They would. I think that would be far too distracting. It would need, these kind of an actor or an actress that was bubbling under, was just becoming famous. But the one actress I would love to have in the Terminus of All Things is Jodie Comer, who is absolutely perfect for a character who opens the book. So again, without giving any, there's no spoilers in this because it's the opening chapter, but it opens with a very brutal breakup in Waterloo Station. Jack, the main character, is meeting his long-term girlfriend Maggie. They're intending to go for a nice weekend away, staying with Jack's mum out in the countryside. And instead of her arriving so they can catch the train together, she arrives and she dumps him completely out of the blue. He has no idea it's coming. And you think maybe that's the last we see of Maggie. It's not the last we see of Maggie. I'm not going to say where she crops up, but she is a really pivotal character. So she needs a really strong actress who you really, really detest.
Oh wow!
It's got to be somebody you really don't like, and I think Jodie Comer would do that absolutely brilliantly. So she's the only famous name that I would try and tempt into my 6-part Netflix adaptation.
On Netflix already, with that in mind.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not thinking movie. I'm thinking this to
Series.
do this justice. It has to be a 6-hour long miniseries, definitely.
No, I mean, yes, nowadays they just really want to. It's like maybe these because I remember on series, pardon me, that at least one that they adapt many actually. They adapt the Marvel from the Daredevil, for example, as well, and other also as well. I think it's very popular nowadays to adapt things for series, I believe. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, it gives a story much more time to breathe. I mean, how many times have you read a book, and then you've gone to see a movie adaptation of that book, and you've been left thinking, oh, they cut out my favorite bit, or they changed that character so much. I mean, a great example of that recently is Thursday Murder Club, the Richard Osman novel, where that's such a popular book. Probably half the people in Britain have read that book, and so everybody, whether you like it or not, everybody knows it. And then the Netflix movie adaptation of that book was perfectly fine. It was good. If you hadn't read the book, you would think the movie was lots of fun, but it wasn't. The movie wasn't that popular because it changed the book so much because they had to squeeze it into 2 hours. And so. And that's a simple detective story or a whodunit. You can imagine with something that's more, where the plotting is really complex, that it needs more time to breathe. So I would definitely love to go for the series adaptation. Sounds like you get more royalties as well, maybe.
Yeah, it could be
very mercenary then.
Yes, it can be the possibility because they have to cut a lot of things because of time. Sometimes budget. I think for me, it strikes as bizarre. Honestly, it's bizarre for me because when you're going to adapt something, some cases definitely I can understand, but something like this, like that, I'm sorry, I'm speaking no bad. When people are expecting some aspects to be like in the book, there's no reason at least not to cut it or to just put it aside.
And it's sometimes you see a movie adaptation and it doesn't resemble the original source material in any way at all.
No.
And then I mean, that must be heartbreaking as a writer when all someone has really done there is they've bought your idea and they've bought the title of your book, and then after that it's not yours at all. But I think it'd be difficult. I mean, citing Richard Osman again, and he's been very open when talking about the adaptation of Thursday Murder Club, and saying that when he handed the rights over to Netflix and to the director Chris Columbus, he deliberately took a step back and said, "That's it. I can't get involved in this. beyond this point, because it will be too hard for me not to be making having critical thoughts about what you're doing with my book, and to say, but this character wouldn't do that, or this character would say this at this point. And so he decided at this point he was just going to step back, and they wanted him to be involved, and he refused. He said no, he wouldn't. And I think that's probably a safer way of doing it, is to make that decision right up front, that unless you have creative control, which would be a very bad thing because you're a writer, not a film director, then it's best just to step away and let them do what they want with it. Anyway, that would be a lovely problem to have. I wish I had that problem of having to make that decision.
That's such an interesting point you are making now, because yes, writers have their own copyrights and etc. They're not filmmakers. There must be a way to the middle ground for that. Absolutely, I think that was what the writer made on that point. Just found the middle ground, saying, I do not understand this, and they created, as long as they say it was made by me, my inspiration for my creative writing, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so think of it as marketing for your IP. That's what it is.
No, could it be? Oh yes. No, yes, to be, yeah. Oh yeah. No, you make sense totally. Yes. So another just question: which of your characters do you think are mostly likely to be an activist, and what kind?
To be an activist?
Yes.
Okay. There is a character in The Terminus of All Things called Jess. And she is, again, in my head, she's mid-20s. She has only recently entered the world that I created for The Terminus of All Things. She previously lived in England, and then she's ended up in this other alternative version of England. And she is a really feisty, strong character. She absolutely doesn't suffer fools gladly. She is laser focused on getting what she wants, but importantly, she is incredibly loyal to her friends. So although in the book itself there are no hints of that potential activism coming through, I would imagine that Jess would be very passionate about some causes. I don't know what they are, but she would be passionate about causes. And I think because she is so laser focused, means that she would be the person to pick up the placard and go and march down the street and protest, or tie herself to a lamppost or whatever it might be that she does to try and get attention for the cause that she's supporting. So I think Jess would be the most likely. The least likely would be my main character, Jack, because he drifts through life. Maybe by the end it'll be different, but at the start of the book he's drifting through life, and he's the last person on earth that would do anything for a cause. He would much rather be at home eating a pizza.
Yeah, there you go. On his own comfort and not trying to see what's happening. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So I think this is a very good moment to pause a little bit about our interview. And please, Jay, could you introduce your third song?
Yeah, so my third song is a bit of a change of tone. And I picked this one because we're talking about storytelling here, and we're talking about writing. And as a listener to music, I'm not somebody who obsesses about lyrics. I listen to the music more than the lyrics, but this song is one where the story that it tells in 3 minutes is a perfect beginning, middle, end story. And that's why I really like it, and that's why I picked it today, and that is Skater Boy by Avril Lavigne.
was familiar with the song from Avril Lavigne, Secret Boy. I hope you guys really enjoyed the listening to it. I know I did. So let's continue our interviews. Right? It's been absolutely amazing talking with you and with the fascinating about, let's say, urban fantasy and stuff that you come up with. It's just been such an interesting interview. So for another question will be, if you had to write a spin-off about the side character, which would you pick?
So I just talked about Jess when we were talking about activism.
Yeah.
And okay, this is almost like an exclusive for you here, but I am planning a sequel to The Terminus of All Things, which I probably won't get to for about a year before I start writing it. But Jess is a character who in terms of screen time, she's only in the book 5% of the time in the original book, but she's the character that people talk to me about the most. And so I am absolutely going to make Jess or give her a much more prominent role in the second book. So Jess is the one that I would write about. Why? Well, I think I explained why I like her when we were talking about activism, but I also think it's because she didn't get much time in the first book. She's she's not a very deeply explained character. We know a bit of her backstory. We can see that she's incredibly loyal to her friends. We can see that she would run through a brick wall for her friends. But beyond that, we know nothing about her. And so I'm looking forward to coming up with more of that backstory and exploring more about Jess and what she's capable of in the second book.
That sounds really, really fascinating, because I think what comes as well is we have this second character, background characters, which can become favorite of the readers if it happens all the time. Mm-hmm. And then we think, this could be a spin-off, this could be an interesting story to explore.
Yep. I find I have to be very disciplined when I'm writing to make notes about ideas that I have as I go along. The new series particularly, I am looking... I'm looking for the more detailed stories I'm going to tell as I go along. I know my overarching story arc, but how I get from A to B, I've only really got plotted out up to about book 3. So as I'm writing, I'm coming up with ideas, and I have to be really disciplined about writing them down, because I've had personal experience of having an idea, thinking, okay, that's in my head, I'll remember that. And then the next day, waking up and thinking, I cannot remember what that was. I just remember thinking it was fantastic. And it's gone forever.
It's just when ideas come. It is expected days, expected times, boom, an idea comes out.
Yeah, well, the entire idea for my latest series came while I was jogging. I was about 100 meters away from my house. I was heading out. This was not coming back, heading out. And I had a decision to make at that point as to whether I stopped, turned around, came back and wrote it down, or whether I carried on and tried to remember it. And I was so determined not to forget that, I think I wasn't running for very far. I think it was 20 minutes or something. And the whole 20 minutes round, I was just repeating the idea to myself over and over again, because I was so determined I wasn't going to forget.
All right. So another question will be more about your publishing side, which will be, why did you go for the self-publishing route, and why?
2 reasons. Firstly, I'm very impatient. I think that comes back to what I was saying earlier about having an attention span that only lets me focus on something for a few minutes at a time. I know that, first of all, to get traditionally published is exceptionally difficult. It's a long haul to find an agent. It's then a long haul for that agent to find you a publishing deal. And then once you've got that publishing deal, it could be a year, 2 years before your work gets out there. And for me, writing and even just publishing my first book was fun. I enjoyed writing it, and then I really wanted people to read it. I didn't have any expectations of making a living from it. I just wanted people to read it. And so I briefly considered trying to go down the traditional publishing route, but thought to myself, look, chance of success, very, very small. Time to market, 2.5, 3 years. Or I could do it myself. And I'm lucky I used to work in publishing, a different genre of publishing altogether, but I know enough. I have enough skills that I could bring those to bear to make it not a very painful process. And so I'm very pleased I've gone down that route. I got my book from the moment where I finished my first draft to publishing it was about 6 months, which is much quicker than would have happened if I'd gone down the trad route. And I've learned some incredible skills and met some incredible people along the way. And so I don't think you would speak to many independent writers who could honestly say that if a traditional publisher came calling, that they would turn down that deal. And I wouldn't. If Penguin ring me right now while we're talking and offer me a deal for my new series, I'm taking that deal. But I don't regret not trying. I going down the independent route was absolutely right for me at the time, and I'm pleased I did.
Yes, and this is why in my show I try to bring much authors are not known for the public, because I think also you guys deserve the spotlight besides the ones already published, because I think most of the people that are buying books nowadays, they don't realize how much talent is out there. And then these authors, they try their best in the self-published route, are just in the dark, waiting for their audience to discover them and to support them.
It's so hard trying to find that audience. But I think what's interesting is I talk to traditionally published writers as well. And unless you're in the big leagues, unless you're in you're in the bestseller list and you walk into W.H. Smith and it's not called that now, is it? T.G. Jones, and you have the top 20 books on the shelf there. Yeah. Your publisher is not really supporting you in the marketing of your book. You're still having to go out there and try and find your own audience. So all that you've really done by traditionally publishing is let them take on the financial risk for you. Yeah. Because you're still having to do most of the work yourself. As an independently published writer, you are taking on the financial risk, and you're still having to go out and find your audience. But you feel at least like you've got some kind of control over it. Every time you find a new reader, and if that reader is paying you for your book, that's profit for you. That's a little bit of money that you can then reinvest back into your writing. But it is very hard to find the audience, and it's very crowded out there as well. I had no idea how many people were writing and trying to publish until I joined their ranks and was also trying to publish. I've met hundreds and hundreds of independently published writers in the past few months, and honestly, not every one of us is good at writing or publishing, but everybody has the right to try, and everybody has the right to let people read what they've done and get feedback on it, and maybe, just maybe, it'll spark something in somebody. So I wish it was easier, but to a certain extent, the grind of trying to find your readers is part of the job.
Yes.
And it makes, when you do get that success, it makes it even sweeter. But I think that's what I'm trying to say is, I think as a traditionally published writer, one person buying your book means nothing to you because you have really high expectations. As an independently published writer, one person buying your book means an awful lot to you, and that one person can make your day.
Yes, and also they can spread as well your work for other people as well that be interested. Yep. So it's like a link. So you mentioned about the pros of self-publishing. Could you say what are the cons of the self-publish?
Yes. Well, I touched on one just now. You are taking on the financial risk. So there are all kinds of things that you have to spend money on when you self-publish. And there are all kinds of things that you could spend money on when you self-publish. And you have to make a choice whether you're going to do that or not. So just to reel off some of the things, you have to buy ISBNs. You have to pay a cover designer. You have to pay an editor. You might want to pay. Oh, can you hear my dog barking?
Yes,
in the background?
I can. He's participating as well.
Participating as well. Yes. Maybe he'll be quiet in a minute. And that can be thousands of pounds. And you have to sell a lot of books before you will make that money back. So every everybody who independently publishes, they go into it with a hope and a dream that their book will become really popular and that they will start to make money, that maybe they will make a living from it. But for most independent writers, you lose money. So at the end of the day, when you put your pen down and you decide you're not going to write anymore or publish anymore, which is a sad thing, but that does happen, then you still, though, have that knowledge that you tried. There are people out there who read your book. There are people out there who loved your book. You can go and look on Amazon and look at your reviews and think, oh wow, I'm rating 4.3 on Amazon or whatever it might be, and that. So you've still done something incredible. I think I saw some statistics the other day that talked about the number of people that start a book and the number, which is quite a lot of people. But of those people, a tiny fraction will finish that book. And of that tiny fraction that finish writing a book, a tiny fraction will publish a book. So by getting to the point at which you have published a book, you've done something incredible. And so that isn't the con, that's a pro, isn't it? But the con is it costs you money
yes.
to do it. And very few of us will ever make that money back.
Yeah. I think this is a good moment to pause as well for you to introduce your fourth song.
Yeah, so again, a bit of a change here. And I'm going for a Massive Attack track, I guess, called Teardrop, and specifically the remastered 2006 version, which is important because the original version is very different. I don't know why. And I picked this because I've used this as background music on quite a lot of promotional videos that I have put out about my book. It's just this really perfect, it's not uplifting, but the music just makes you think about progress. And so I've used it a lot in my marketing for Terminus of All Things.
Well done.
Drop on the fire, fade summer, baby.
This is a very famous song, but I think it's still very loved by many. Teardrop, a massive attack. I will have you guys enjoy the remastered version of 2006. So now this will continue a little bit of interview as well, because we could talk about this hours and hours and hours, because there's so much to talk about writing, the process of writing, how things come to authors in different perspectives and different ways. And each author will have their own way to express themselves, and I think that's very important. So about the question I'm about to ask you as well is, Jay, what are common traps for new authors, do you think?
Well, I've probably fallen into most of them myself over the course of the past 2 years. I think there are lots of traps around dialogue and writing dialogue. And the reason I think it's a trap is because you get so much conflicting advice from established authors about writing dialogue and the use of dialogue tags and things like that. In fact, I'm going to broaden out my answer actually, because that's made me think of something maybe a bit more important than just dialogue. Although I do think dialogue is important, and I think the trap is all the different voices out there that are telling you that you have to do things a particular way. I know. In your intro to the question, actually, you said that there are lots of different ways of doing things, but there are people out there who talk with great authority about the way that they've done it as being the way that everybody should do it. And you have to treat all the advice you get, even from very successful authors, with a pinch of salt. It's just advice. It's just a suggestion. It worked for them, so it might work for you, but you have to make the decision whether or not it's absolutely right for you. And I think the most common example of that is should you write to a routine or should you write when you feel like it? There are people out there who will with a straight face say, the only way to write a novel is to make sure that you sit down every single day and write 1,000 words. Otherwise you're never going to finish it. But there are other people who will say, just write when your heart tells you to write. And the real answer is probably somewhere in the middle. You need some structure, but equally don't write if you're not feeling it. You've got to if you really don't want to write, don't write. Go and do something else that makes you happy. And so that's the biggest trap is picking on one voice and believing that one voice has all the answers for you, because you have to try a ton of different things and work out what works for you.
Yeah, I think that's a very good trap to talk about, because as you said, what might work for them doesn't work for me, and the best way to try is to experiment with that.
Yeah, you have to experiment. I think experimenting with the creative process is easy is the wrong word, but you have space to experiment with creativity. You can write short stories, you can write novellas, you can write a draft of a novel, and you can send it out to beta readers and get feedback and try it again a different way. You haven't really lost anything there apart from time. With the publishing process, experimentation, of course, is a bit tougher because there you have to spend money to experiment, and so that there is an extra level of anxiety that comes with doing that. I know a route a lot of writers who've self-published go down, of course, is advertising. They want to spend money on advertising, and there are so many different voices out there telling you that this is the way to do your adverts. No, don't do it that way. Do it this way. This is the way to do your adverts. And unfortunately, the only way to learn the way that works for your book, for your genre, for your audience, is to experiment and see what works for you.
Exactly.
And that means, unfortunately, spending money to do it. So you will lose money long before you make it.
Yes, yeah. No, but absolutely, it's about experiment and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will never know as a writer what worked for you or not. So another question I would like to ask as well about writing is, what is your favorite software of choice?
Yeah, okay. I write in Google Docs. Obviously, Google Docs is free. Fantastic. The downside of Google Docs is that once you hit about 50,000 words, it grinds to a halt. So you have to break your manuscript up into individual files for it to stay snappy in Google Docs.
Okay.
The reason I work in Google Docs is it's purely because of the editor that I work with, who's a lovely editor called Yara Rigo de Righi. She's based in Italy, and her process works really well with Google Docs, where I can create my draft, I can share the draft with her through Google. She can comment in it, and we're basically collaborating in a single version of the document. We're not exchanging files back and forth. I know you could do that with Word and with Microsoft Cloud, but it just works better with Google, frankly. That's the writing part. For formatting, I swear by Atticus. So I'm PC based, not Mac based. If I was using a Mac, I'd probably be swearing by Vellum. But I wrote a non-fiction book a few years ago, which I never talk about. but it exists
somewhere, yeah.
And which I self-published. It's where I kind of learned the basics of self-publishing before I actually published my novel. And I formatted that book entirely in Word myself, and it took me days and days and days. It was only 150 pages long, but it took me forever. And I look at it now and think that's really not very good. I bought Atticus, which I think cost about £100, maybe as a one-off cost, and for Determinants of All Things, and I had it formatted in about 2 hours. And so it's such a time saver, and it produces pretty high quality. I mean, obviously the best thing to do would be to pay a human being to do it for you, because there's a real art form in getting it formatted so that all of your text ends at the same point on the page, and that you don't have annoying breaks, you don't have orphaned lines and so on. And Atticus does a really passable job at that, but it's not perfect, but it's good enough. And I think one piece of advice I would give to anybody who is self-publishing is that you want to produce a physical product that is as good as it can possibly be. So many independent authors let themselves down because their story's fantastic, but the physical product that they deliver, the paperback, is poorly formatted. The cover is awful. They've made some poor choices with things like paper type and whether or not the cover is gloss or matte or whatever it might be. And it's they just don't stand up against a traditionally published book. They look like a worse product. And so I absolutely encourage indie authors who are doing this seriously to invest in software and invest in the people to help them to produce a physical product that would be would look fine on the shelf in Waterstones. You know, if it would look fine on the shelf in Waterstones, then you've done your job. If it would stand out, then No, you haven't.
Yeah. Oh dear. So another question I would like to ask as well here is what you do to get inside your characters' heads.
I spend a lot of time lying awake at night. So I think that's where I do it. I know many people have they have techniques like they create mood boards for their characters, or they will create large character sheets. They will do character art for their characters, and they will have that in front of them. I don't feel like I need any of those visual aids to help me do it, but I do spend a lot of time thinking about my characters, and ultimately that usually translates into the dialogue. I really like dialogue in books. I think some writers take this too far. There's an independent writer called R.R. Hayward, a British indie author, who publishes a whole series of zombie novels and science fiction novels. Incredibly popular, really successful. I really love his books. But sometimes he writes dialogue where it's like 10 pages of dialogue, just single, really snappy, really fast. It'd be fantastic if it was filmed. But you can take that a bit too far. But dialogue is where your their personality comes out. And so you have to, in my head, when I'm lying there awake at night, my characters are having conversations with each other. And sometimes those conversations become part of the book, and sometimes it doesn't. It's just side chat.
Yeah, they are just chatting with each other, basically.
Yeah.
Having a campfire as well, being there and just
that's right.
Yeah. So I think it will be a very good moment to pause as well. So far, it's been a fantastic interview with you, Jay. So could you just please introduce our 50th song?
Okay, so my next one is a Blur track. Now, this is I'm going back to the nostalgia theme here. Reminds me of being at university, a very happy time of my life. And I think the only kind of celebrity encounter story that I have is when I saw Blur performing live at the Bristol University, which is where I was. And I was in the front row. I don't know how I got to the front, but I was at the front row, and I was poked in the eye by Damon Albarn from Blur as he was leaning off the stage. And so that's my celebrity claim to fame, is that Damon Albarn's finger has been in my eye. Anyway, that's why I picked a Blur track. And rather than any of their poppy ones, I've gone for something a bit more reflective. And so I've gone for the Universal.
This is the next century, where the
And guys, this was Blur, the Universal. I never heard a song before, but you guys are really hoping you're enjoying this far. I know I am. So now I think we could just really start to talk about more about your journey as a writer. I think it would be very interesting to know how you finding this far. Have you learned something new, or what are you prosperous for the future?
So I'm at a pivot point, I guess, in my writing journey, where I have to make a decision as to whether this is what I want to be for the rest of my life. This is what I want to be when I grow up, or whether
Yeah.
this is an interesting, fulfilling side hobby. I've always loved writing, but I think I said earlier that I took a complete break from writing fiction for many years. But I clearly had this desire burning in me to do it, because when I finally found the time to sit down and write, it came to me very easily. But again, I had no expectations that it would be anything other than a diverting, fun thing to do, that I could say at the end of the day, I published a book or I wrote a book.
Yes.
But I've had
Sorry. Continue, please continue. No.
But I've had so much positive feedback from people about what I've written. I'm completely blown away by the reaction to Terminus of All Things and to my new book as well. People have taken something from that book which I never expected that people would. The emotional connection that they've made with it. And so I'm really encouraged to keep going. Of course, we've talked a bit already today about how it is not a financially rewarding place to be as an independent writer, unless you're one of the very lucky 2%, 3% that can make a really good living from it. And so I'm at the point now where I'm making that decision. I'm exploring the idea of not being a full-time writer anymore and going back into lucrative paid employment, or whether I want to double down and keep writing. And part of me worries that if I make the decision that I want to be a full-time writer, that I'm turning it into a business. I'm trying to turn it into a business. And I worry that if I do that, am I going to lose something in my writing? With Terminus of All Things, I wrote it because I loved it. I loved the story. I wanted to tell the story. With Curious Physiologies, which comes out in February, I told that story because I loved it. I wanted to tell it. And then, but I do worry, there's a small part of me worries that if I try, am I going to write the next 2, 3, 4 books because I have to, rather than because I want to? And so that's my conundrum that I'm in right now. But I love writing so much, and I love what it brings to people who read the book. I think whichever choice I make, I hope that my readers will still enjoy what I'm producing.
So, very interesting topics you are talking about. You don't want to make like a business, and you fear that probably, I don't know, this is speculation, that you might. Do you fear that you're going to lose the interest of writing to express yourself, or to just, I don't know, something else?
I think I fear that I'm going to write because I want, rather than because it's what I want to write. Now, there's nothing wrong with writing what people want, because they want it for a reason.
Yeah.
But it does mean that maybe you take fewer risks if you're doing that. Completely honestly, my first book, Terminus of All Things, is a bit risky. It spans genre. It does something, I think, quite original, quite unique. And that means that some people that have read it love it, and some people who have read it think, this isn't for me. I don't quite know what this is.
Yes.
And when I was plotting out my new series, I deliberately made the choice that I knew what was popular. And I thought, I want to write something that everybody's going to love. And so I've written a story and a genre which I think is more commercially minded. It is more likely, I think, to sell more copies than Terminus of All Things. But is it as good a story? I don't know. I'll have to wait and see what my readers think. The readers who've read it so far love it. But I wonder if they love it because it's familiar, or they love it because, like Terminus of All Things, it challenged them in a way that surprised them. They're both equally valid. I'm not. There's nothing wrong with doing what I've done with the new series. But is that quite as exciting? Maybe not.
Well,
As a writer, I mean.
well, probably as a perspective as a writer, you might not, but your readers might find it interesting. Who knows?
Yep.
People have really interesting. I'm not saying interesting, but probably like variety of tastes. Sometimes people just like weird things. Sometimes people just like normal things, or just banal, or even your very usual routine thing that you can see every day.
Yeah.
I'm just honestly, if people who brought your book enjoy it, probably they just want to see more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. But you do need people out there taking risks and doing new things, because let's face it, if everybody was trying to make money right now, every one of us would write romantasy. That's all we would write, because that is, by far the most popular. Or maybe cozy murder mysteries or romantasy. Those are the two things that we would all be writing if we really wanted to make money. But then the whole world would be full of cozy murder mysteries and romantasy, and you need people out there who are going, I'm going to try taking this genre and this genre, and I'm going to mash them together and create something completely different. I think that's important. We need those writers out there. Those maybe not the rich writers, though. That's the problem.
I think we need variety of writers to come up with different ideas and different. Well, I'm not saying different stories, because at the end of the day, what has been written so far in terms of originality. But I think your voice coming out of the world, I think, is important.
Yeah. There are no new stories, are there? Really, every story's been written.
Yeah,
it's how you tell it.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
I was just trying to say that. Yes, is how you, as a writer, put your voice in the book, and then just come out like this, not new but different take and perspective of other things people have done even before us, our ancestors and everything. So I just want to thank you, Jay, so much to come here to my show, and hope you also enjoyed. And I just want to say as well, for those who want to follow you on social media, anywhere you wanted to say where they can follow, please, this is your time.
Well, I am on all the social media, far too much social media, in fact. You can look me up on TikTok, where I couldn't tell you what my TikTok handle is. I can never remember it. But if you search for my name, Jay Neill, JayNeill, I will crop up as Jay Neill Author. But you can also find me on Instagram, on Blue Sky, on Threads, and I'm even experimenting with YouTube at the moment as well. So wherever you are, I will be there.
And also, guys, please, as I said it, for edgy author I brought here, please check them out. Please follow them on Instagram or whatever, because right now, because of AI, we writers need to say, I can do this without using of it.
Yep,
and by the way,
absolutely.
what is your opinion about that, Joe?
About AI?
Yeah.
I have been on a really interesting journey with AI. So in my previous life, before I was a writer, I was a software engineer, or at least I led software engineering teams. And so I was in an industry 3 years ago when generative AI came along, which was both threatened by generative AI, but also saw generative AI as a potential solution to all of their problems. And I would say, if you'd asked me that question a year and a half ago, I would have been quite enthusiastic about Gen AI. As a writer now, I'm incredibly unenthusiastic about Gen AI for two reasons. Firstly, it's built on theft. There is no other way of saying it. Generative AI models are built on stolen content. I'm not one of those writers who thinks that their work has been copied into a generative AI model, and that somehow that model is then going to reproduce something which rivals what I've done, because that's simply not the case. But the fact is, they took people's IP and they copied it. And they now use that IP in some way to produce new things, and that's wrong. But the most important thing is that it's destroying careers. and it is removing human creativity from the world, and both of those are very bad things. So when I first became a writer, when I first published my novel, I will be completely honest, in my marketing, I used a AI generated image in my marketing. And a couple of people said to me at the time, "Oh, you're using Gen AI for your marketing. I can't believe that. I'm going to unfollow you, or instant unfollow." And my reaction was, "Oh, that's ridiculous. It's just an image. Why would you be so But that's because at that moment in time, I was thinking, as a writer, my work is valuable, and somehow, for some reason, I wasn't valuing the work of artists. I don't know why. I feel embarrassed to admit it, but I didn't see the value in using a human artist. But I've been on a complete journey and a reversal of that train of thought now. I went and worked with a cover designer for Terminus of All Things called Roderick Bryden, who's based in Bristol. He's a fantastic artist. He hand draws his covers. Incredible detail that goes into them, well beyond what actually appears in the finished cover itself. And I got such an appreciation for his skill in that process that I thought to myself, every single author out there now who is using generative AI to produce your covers, sure, you might not be able to afford to work with someone like Roderick, but there is an artist out there who you could afford to work with, and you need to go and find them and support them. So I'm very anti-Gen AI now. I do understand why authors use it. We've talked about the financial risk you have to take on as an independent writer, and you have to make a choice where you spend your money. And some of us are lucky enough to be able to afford to invest money in the process, and others have nothing to invest. But I think that there's always a way of finding a way of you working with a real human. You can barter for skills. You can find a student who just wants to improve their portfolio, and therefore you're working with a real human and not with a machine. And so I understand why people do it, but I would encourage writers not to. If you pick up a book and you can see the cover has been generated by AI, that immediately makes you think that maybe the writing has as well. And I know that's not the case. I know writers out there who've published books which they've written entirely themselves without any generative AI assistance, but the cover they've gone to Gen AI to produce. And they're doing themselves a disservice, because it then devalues their writing by doing that. So I guess if I could wave a magic wand now, I would make generative AI go away.
Well,
and if I can't make that happen, I would make all writers at least pause and think before they use generative AI for any part of their process. If you make the choices for you, that's absolutely fine. Everyone has to make their own choice, but I would encourage everybody to think before they do.
yes, I agree with you what you've just said. I think generative AI as a beginning was like a curiosity, novelty, which people didn't know what it was going to be about, which is totally fine, because technology has to evolve in some way, but not to a certain extent it's going to steal your work, steal other people's creativity. And I think that's when the limitation we start to say no, because this also implies copyrights, laws. And then I want to say it again, as I've seen it on my last episode with our manager, because we are talking about a YouTuber that was, again, with the title "Society Ace Artist" and still does, and he brought the generative AI as well on this video, and it is just a massive thing is happening right now. And can you imagine that you have to go page by page as a writer to see what was stolen from you, and then to see what the law can protect you, which is not much, by the way. It's not much, by the way.
Yeah.
And the law we have in UK, it's very outdated.
Yeah. And our government isn't taking this seriously either. I appreciate they're between a rock and a hard place. They have to. AI is not going away, or generative AI is not going away. We have to be careful to make sure it is generative AI we're talking about here, not machine learning and AI in general, because that's all fine. But I appreciate the government has to, they have to keep the tech oligarchy happy. They have to, they have to make sure that they are keeping industry moving in this country. We want to be a center for innovation, all of those things. But they seem to be doing that at the expense of the creative industries. And I didn't expect that from this government, which has surprised me.
Well, well, we can have a lot of ideas about the government, but I think is that the purpose is just this AI thing, and to think they can, well, maybe you do not think it replace, but it's taken away something that's so human and unique.
Yeah.
Then our ancestors have been then since the beginning of time, even when there was just cavemen. For probably some a better word, but it's what it is. It's the paintings on the walls. It's still art. It's still, in a way, the beginning of telling a story.
Yep,
Still.
absolutely. There is another side to this as well. Is that it's also creating witch hunts as well against writers, which I've been very lucky in that I haven't truly experienced this. Every TikTok post I put out there about my books, someone will comment, "I bet it's written with AI." They're just trolling. Yeah, I do a TikTok live. Someone will come on and say, "I bet you wrote it with AI," and you're like, this is getting so tiring, having to say, "No, I didn't," because they've got no proof one way or the other. There was a fascinating live I did the other day where somebody came on and said, "If I was to run your book through an AI detector, would it come out completely clean?" To which my response was, well, there is not a single piece of software in the world that is capable of accurately detecting AI, despite what everybody says. I know this because I used to build them. Despite this is part of my job.
Yeah.
It cannot be done. You can, there are signs and signals, but you cannot. There's so many false positives that this software doesn't work. This person went away. They came back and said, "I've run your book through an AI detector." To which I said, well, to do that, you would have had to have stolen my work and then loaded it into some piece of software to do so. So I don't think you have. You're just trolling me. But there are so many writers out there now who are getting accused of using AI for really simplistic reasons. The M dash. I mean, I love using M dashes, and it makes me angry now that it's a really simple throwaway criticism, insult, accusation, whatever, that you can throw at writers. And it can make a real difference. Now, who knows? Maybe every time I put a post out and someone accuses me of using AI in a book, that then puts somebody off buying my book.
Yeah.
So I'm losing out here. It might end up eventually tipping the balance so that I don't write anymore because I haven't sold enough copies to support producing the next book. And I really hate that. It's like a sort of a hidden problem of the AI.
Yeah.
New AI world that we're in is that it's just a really simple, brainless way for people to attack writers.
And not just that, and I think you should separate from each other as well, and from people are enjoying your stories. Because, yes, the thing of M dash is so ridiculous. Like, classics uses M dashes. The Carla Anna Poe used M dashes as well on his work. So, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So what's going to be next? People are going to use, I don't know, semicolons often?
Yeah, I mean, there are some tells out there. Like short, really short staccato sentences. But I write dialogue with short staccato sentences. A generative AI model is built on real writing. So all it is doing is reflecting the way that real people write.
Yes.
And so eventually, any way that a large language model could possibly express a concept has already been produced by a human.
Yeah.
Because that's all that it is doing, is regurgitating patterns from human creativity.
No, yes, and I think I don't think people realize that the AI is just learning from us, because alone they cannot do nothing. They're nothing.
I mean, it's
in a way. So, for example, I think AI needs to the humans to tell them you can learn from this as a way to do something, but as itself as a machine. If you let them just be by own, you tell them nothing, what they're going to come up with. It's just only something I was trying to create a discussion.
Yep. absolutely. I think a few moments ago you referred to it as when it first came along as a curiosity. Yeah, I think we forget that it is remarkable. There's no doubt about it.
Oh,
Large
yes.
language models are remarkable. It's a remarkable human achievement to have produced this thing that can do this. But it's such a shame that there are, the negatives of it at the moment in the creative industries anyway are outweighing the positives. I guess I hope for the future that mankind can find a way of using this incredible technology that we have produced in a way that is ethical, doesn't use 1,000,000 tons of water for to cool the server farms, all the horrible things that we know about it. I just hope we can find a way of using it, because it's not going away. It won't go away. And it might be as serious as, this is the survival of the human race at stake here, whether we can find a way of using it in the right way. It certainly might be the survival of the creative aspects of the human race that's at stake.
Now, really hoping we can find a more humane and compassionate way to use it, at least to try to find a middle ground, definitely.
Yep.
At least to try to help us, not to go against us, but to help us on our everyday lives, just to achieve our things.
Yep.
Yes. So I just want to thank you so much to come again to my show for the 13th time. I'm telling you this. I want to
thank me. I like thanks.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so there you go. So thank you for coming, and that was really, really enjoyable interview. I hope just to those listening, please follow Jay. His story of his book sounds very interesting. Just please check them out. If you are guys into urban fantasy or portal fantasy even, so they come up with their terms. So please go out, support him, and now let's just listen to the last song you have for us, Jay, please.
So my last song is from a musical. I love musicals, but I don't really love Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals, apart from this one. I love Sunset Boulevard. And one of the reasons why I love it is this particular song, which is, I think it closes out Act 1, and or maybe beginning of Act 2, I can't remember. And it is a group of writers and extras on the film set, and they're not very successful. They're dreaming of success, which is what we are all doing, of course, as independent writers. And the song talks about where they're going to be this time next year, which I think is what a lot of us spend our time thinking.
Hey, Gillis, we'd given up on you. Why you been keeping that gorgeous face of yours?
In a deep freeze.
Jesus, Joe, what are you wearing?
It's quite a crowd.
Yeah, I invited all the kids doing walk-ons in DeMille's latest picture.
Where have you been hiding? I called your apartment, I called your ex-agent. I was about to call the Bureau of Missing Persons.
They always know where to find me.
But this time next year, I'll have planted a juicy part.
1950 will be my start.
No more carrying spears.
I'll be discovered. My life won't ever be the same. Billy Wilder won't know my name. And you'll call all the time. Tilly, does Kim want if you guys lent her a dime? Just an apartment with no roaches and no dry rot, where the hot water comes out hot. That's my Hollywood dream.
Your resolution.
It's to write something that gets shot with approximately the plot I first had in my head.
But you'll get rewritten even after you're dead.
It's a year to begin a new life. Find a place somewhere quiet, somewhere pretty. When you have a young kid and a wife, then you need somewhere green, far from the city. It's a rambling old house with a big apple tree, with a swing for the kid and a hammock for me.
I have some good news. It's dark windows.
You don't let go.
I gave Sheldrake an outline, Joe, and he swallowed the bait.
Well, hallelujah.
While you've been buying your fancy clothes, I've been making
Already you're forgetting that I gave it to you. You remind me of me long ago, of the bus full of ignorant ambition. Thought I'd waltz into some studio and achieve overnight recognition. I've seen too many optimists sinking like stones. Let them suck all the marrow clean out of my bones.
I love dark windows, but I can't write it on my own. Can't we speak on the telephone? All my evenings are free.
Hey, just a minute. I'm the fella who bought the ring.
Artie, this is a business thing. It's important to me. You'll be on location in Clinch, Tennessee. Please make this your New Year's resolution for me. By this time next year, I will get my foot in the door. Next year I know I'm gonna score an amazing success. Got to the moment when they open the envelope, past the statue and to a hope that is smiling you here. We'll be down on our knees, outside Providence Chinese, conference there on the streets, immortality speaks. This time next year, this time next year, we'll have nothing to fear. Contracts all signed, 3 picture deal, yellow brick road the rear. Hope we're not still saying these things this time.
You know what? I think I'm available next year. In fact, I'm available right now.
Joe, that's great.
Hey, listen. Can you put me up for a couple of weeks?
It just so happens we have a vacancy on the couch.
I'll take it.
Yes,
Max, it's Mr. Gillis. I want you to do me a favor.
I'm sorry I cannot talk now, Mr. Gillis.
Listen, I want you to take my old suitcase.
I'm sorry, I'm attending to Madame.
What do you mean?
She found the razor in your room, and she cut her wrists.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old
Thank you for listening to our guest stories this week.
Dreamcatcher Radio. Dreamcatcher Radio.
Dreamcatcher Radio is about capturing and creating dreams through music, chat, and debate. Empowering expression, enriching society. A go-to place for unsigned musical talent. A radio station which listens to its audience. Free speech, vibrant, engaging. Stream worldwide 24/7. Events, competitions, promotions. Always keen to have a listening ear. Contact us. hello@dreamcatcherradio.com.
Dreamcatcher Radio.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows?
Keep it locked right here.
Dream Catcher.